YouTube Part 5. Canopy. Trying to make our nose pin, whatever you want to call that thing. It's going to hold it into the ASH26 fuselage. So we're just going to cut this. You may already realize this from the fact that you're watching the same video, but we didn't actually run out of time. I misread the number. So no big deal, I'm just going to put these two videos together. So you'll have one video. This will actually be part 4 still. Okay. That is some very hard wood, whatever that is. Okay, so now you can see that there's an angle that's not exactly commensurate to what we had before, but it's very close. The reason I did that, well, there's a variety of reasons, but I also have this loose still, and that's another thing. There's a variety of reasons for that. I want to use the chop saw to adjust this, but I'm just afraid I'm going to have somebody get on and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you would do that. Safety first. Where's your safety glasses and nut cup?" I had somebody complaining today about me flying a UMX plane over my kids. They like to lay down in the grass, and then I fly over them. And they were just appalled, like, "Oh my God, it's like child abuse." I just couldn't believe the stupidity. And you'll get that within the RC community, unfortunately. So, but back to the work here. Now I need to sand this, but I don't want to do it with a sanding block. I think I might be able to do it a little quicker here, more effective. Beautiful. Okay, so you can probably tell from watching, but I'm trying to get that angle closer to what we had before with just a little bit of a roll on it. A little bit of a roll here. And that's to meet this exacting shape of this front portion. Okay. Now that we have that, really honestly, I feel like it's a pretty good rough cut. So I'm actually thinking about maybe just gluing it in there with CA to see how it fits. I've already got to scrape some junk out, so why don't we do that? So we're going to use a little bit of CA and kicker just to hold it temporarily, since we already have to scrape stuff. Okay. And this is going to be a critical part, so I don't want this to just be tacked in here when we're done. It needs to be very securely attached. Okay, so we'll just let that kicker work. We use foam safe. I don't really think I would have had to use foam safe, but it tends to chemically react a little bit cooler. Less chance of damaging the plastic. So I did that. Put that away. And then that should be set up by now, so we can go ahead and cap this off for now. And we'll just see like how bad that is. Okay, great. And see, this can be slid in and out depending on how long it needs to be for now. So for now, I'm hoping it just doesn't break off right away, but if it does, not the end of the world. Okay. So we'll line that up. Relax that. Let it back in. Okay, so I don't know if we just need it to be pulled back a little bit. I don't know how much that's gonna give us trouble later. I mean, it's a really good fit there. What if we just kind of, right now, we just have a little bit of extra thickness. I wonder back here from that epoxy. Okay, so we'll release it. And of course, I'd like to yank on it just to see how strong it is, but it's just going to break the CA. Okay, so now that we know for sure that's going to hold it in place, I can rotate, pivot that back to where I wanted it. Just leave a little bit of the material sticking out. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually, I'll use non-foam safe for this portion. Okay. Get that in there. Use non-foam safe up here to coat the tip. And remember how we were talking about epoxy? I think I was just lying. I changed my mind, guys. We're just going to go with CA for this portion. Now, once we have the CA on there, then we'll go ahead and just a little bit of CA on the back to keep everything from wanting to undo or slide. We'll set that upside down so that it, well, right side up. Upside down compared to what we had been doing for work. And then we're going to go ahead and let that drip down, if there is any to drip, when we put kicker on it. Okay, so we got the kicker on there. Lick the fingers. Make sure we have everything shaped the way we want. That CA will drip and make this a little thicker than you want if you're not careful. That's why I did that. Okay, so now that we have that glued and we have the CA set up, and you get this material out of here, or I need to be okay with it being there, and I don't think I'm okay with it being there for the next step, which is going to be including putting epoxy on. So let's pause it. Okay, so just remembering that it wasn't quite super tight, I'm going to go ahead and break this off. And the reason I'm going to break it off is because I need to take just a little bit of material off of here so that it pulls that nose down just a hair. Okay. It's very tempting to put grooves or something in here so that it's not just that nice smooth finish. So as to allow it to sit in the in the epoxy. Okay, so we know that we want that centered, and we know that we want it right at the edge. Okay, so we need to leave a little bit of that CA that's in there, and then the rest we're going to pick out with a knife. Oh man, that's scary, guys. We're not going to probably get all this off of here. We're just going to take the big stuff out. Okay, just like that. And the reason I'm so concerned is because you'll see it if I go through. For sure you'll see it. So now I need to heat up a little something. This could be very dangerous for the finish of my plane. Okay, so I got that warm. Nah, we're not even going to do it. We're just going to go straight into the epoxy. So, it's just not worth the risk. We're going to end up screwing it up. So I'll just get that in there with epoxy next. That's my next step, so let's do that. Get the epoxy mixed and I'll come right back. Okay, so we got the epoxy on there. Don't need much. 15-minute epoxy. BSI brand. It's supposed to be the most flexible of the group of epoxies that they sell. That's why the guy who sold me this plane had recommended I use it. And I thought, well, surely I can just use 30 or 10 or 5 or whatever. No, I just started doing a little research, and it sounds like 15's really the way to go, and it's just a good product. It's not any more expensive or less expensive. It's just, it is what it is. So I was like, okay, alright, I'll do it. So get a big glob on there. Heavy on the edges, especially on here, so we don't have a huge amount of surface area to hold this down. And remember, we're just going to stick that back right where it was. Would be totally awesome as if I had a way of kind of making my, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to make a bed of this stuff first. I'm just going to set it in the bed of it. Okay, so just like that. Nice thick bed of epoxy. I'm just going to run into the edge of CA, which is where I was going before. Just like that, and then just paying special attention to being centered. Because in this case, you need it to be centered. Because that will be critically important for the looks. But also for the function of the plane. It's not just about looks. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get some of this, and I'm just gonna, oh geez, of course it's gonna be super thick and hard to work with as usual. Okay, just getting a little bit here on both sides, let it flow around. A little bit behind. Just, you know, kind of a little bit crazy on the quantity there, but, you know, quantity over quality, that's what I say, right? Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit on here as well, just to bridge. Oh boy, don't tip over. See, I'm just kind of picking it up and just like letting it drip down the sides. When it comes to this epoxy, guys, just giving it the surface area to make what would be a weak bond into a very strong bond. Okay, so you can see it's going to be spread out way up to the top here. It should strengthen the canopy a little bit too, but it's going to add some weight, and that's why I hate doing this, but okay, I'm about to drip here, you see that? I'm just going to catch it. Okay, so I really want to get some of this epoxy into this area here, but I'm having a real heck of a time getting it up there. Not 100% sure I can do it on this first stage. I may have to come back and add some a little bit later. Uh-oh, it's wanting to slip. That's not good. You don't want it to slip, guys. That's why we went through all that trouble to make our little template setup earlier. There, got some in there finally. Okay, so now I'm going to stop screwing with this for a second, just to let that set. Got quite a bit on here, so I'm actually going to take a little bit out. Except I've got plans for you, epoxy, 15-minute epoxy. That's partially set up. Let me just bring you in here and slather you in onto the side here of this latch mechanism. And so I can do the other side as well. I'm going to make sure I have this in a spot where I can lay it down. So this got twisted. So I'm going to take and scrape a little bit more of this product out. There's just a ton in there. It's just way more than it's needed. And so if we're going to add the weight to the plane, we might as well scrape it back in where it's going to be needed, which is going to be in here on that mechanism. For goodness sakes, it's always when the epoxy's cooking, when all these stupid things fall down. Don't need anything in the middle there. Okay, so now what I need to do is just kind of make sure we're still going in the straight direction there. I'm kind of scraping this right now to really get rid of that epoxy. And, ooh, I don't want that stuff to drip down there. That's not what I want to happen. In fact, that's one of the few things I really can't have happen on this portion, because it'll make it too thick. It'll cause other problems. Okay. Okay. Set that down for a minute. I don't think we're really getting too much epoxy into there. Might be just kind of wasting our time. Okay, so I'm going to clean this thing off. And then I need to go for a Q-tip. This Q-tip, fresh one. Make sure your fingertips aren't all covered with CA when you pick this thing up. Now I'm going to rotate it. Just clean that little bit. Get that CA back, or not CA, the epoxy back. We're just kind of looking to see if we're still even. I may have to sand that down a little bit. But it seems like the epoxy's sort of getting into position where it needs to be. Now I can spread that stuff up now that it's thickening up. See, all I'm doing is I'm just kind of lifting it. And then those little strings are nasty. I hate those little strings. Okay, now the clean side of the Q-tip, we're going to run down. Just get that product out of there. We can always deal with those stringies later. Okay, that needs to just be thrown away now. Square that up. just ever so slightly. It's starting to be where I could just set it down and just leave it. Because the epoxy is set up such that it's not going to slip as much. And that's where I get real fearful, is that it's going to slip. So I'm just trying to kind of pull it, make sure I'm bumping into that CA ledge that we had at the beginning. And that tells me that I'm in the right position forward. And then centering it this way tells me it's in the right position left to right. Okay, so now we wait. The worst part of model building for people like me, you may have noticed that this is actually part 5. That was a misread on my part. So thanks for watching part 5. When we come back next time, we'll be doing something else new and exciting. Probably getting this fit, working down the details, or working down the final fit of this canopy. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe.